Okay. So, pleasure of being here, and let's start with a typical story of innovation. It starts with Ruth Handler. She was a housewife in the 1950s in the US, and while being in the kitchen, she was observing her 3-4-year-old daughter. The daughter was playing with dolls, and at this time, in the 1950s, all dolls looked like small children. But she realized that her daughter pretended that this small child is an adult, playing role plays like what she observed from her parents. Then it came to her mind that she said, why is it why all dolls look like small children? Why are there no dolls that look like adults? And she shared this observation with her husband, who used to work for a company called Mattel, at this time the world's largest manufacturer of baby dolls. But the husband just looked at her and said, oh, my darling, what do you know about our business? Probably continue cooking and I take care of the business. Nothing happened. Next. So 2 years later, they went to Switzerland. First time out of the US, totally new environment, and they enjoyed the mountains. And then at one evening, Ruth wandered around in the city of Bern, and in a rowdy neighborhood around the railway station, she discovered this, the Bild Lily, a merchandising product by Bild, a tabloid from Germany. And this was a cartoon in the 50s of, let's say, a rowdy woman that became so popular that Bill started to sell these merchandising puppets in adult stores and men's bars. And Ruth saw this and said, this is exactly the doll my daughter wanted to have. And she acquired it and brought it back, and now you already know where this is heading. This was the birth of the Barbie, the most important, the most successful toy ever invented. And why I'm sharing this story? As it reveals a lot about the nature of innovation. First, innovation often starts from outsiders. I will come back to this in my talk. As outsiders often don't also follow no structured planning process. And we know this is a lot of breakthrough innovation comes from not structured planning processes. Often we also have to overcome much resistance in innovation, but more or less, we have to be open and unbiased. Now think about, if Ruth would have known German, she never would have given a sex doll to her daughter. But she bought it as she knew anything about the context of this innovation. As we learned about context before, but sometimes the context also can become a hurdle, can bring us into a tunnel perspective. But especially, innovation is so much apparently about coincidence and luck. Just think about it. It's totally unlikely that the Barbie is existing. There's so many coincidences coming together. First, child having the insight, mother observing it, having the father in the right industry, going to Switzerland, remembering this when she sees this Barbie doll, buying it, giving it to her daughter. The daughter plays with this, likes it. Father now, after 2 years, finally get it. They bring it to Mattel. They introduce it to the market. They don't mess it up. So if we mess it up, it's totally unlikely that the Barbie should exist. But still, this is happening with innovation every single time. And this is exactly what an innovation management professor like me does. We try to teach a procedure. We say we can make this a structured process. We can take the luck out of this process. And if we now go fast forward a few decades, we have new terms. We have not an entire new, let's say, paradigm of doing innovation. We talked about this today before. We have all the digital transformation, Industry 4.0, predictive enterprises, smart products. And that's later where I want to talk about a little bit more. What you see here on the big screen, but actually you can see it also at my feet, was one of the really first smart products. It was launched 10 years ago by Adidas in 2005. And it was, and Nike just did the same 10 years later, but the shoe had a small motor in here, it has one, and this motor could move the string here, and it had a built-in configurator as you could adjust the cushioning of your shoe. So there's a sensor that's sensing how you're running, like this or that. It will adapt the cushioning and always you have comfortable feet. The downside of this product was, well, sometimes you had to reboot your shoes as the sensor was down. When I put on the shoes this morning, I realized they are out of batteries. and you had to read a 60-page handbook to operate your shoes. But still, they were one of the first really smart products in the market, and they shared 3 out of 4 characteristics of smart products. First, smart products are able to sense. They are able to somehow think. They have kind of intelligence in it, and they have an actor transferring in this kind of sensor information about the ground to the motor adjusting the cushioning. However, 10 years ago, the shoe was not connected. They were thinking, I was involved in the product development project at this time, and they were thinking about bringing it to that internet, but the smartphone even was not invented at this time. However, now we have a huge project here with RWTH and Adidas to develop the same shoe again 10 years later to launch a really smart shoes with today's technology. And one thing is very, very different nowadays. Now it's all about the connectivity. Now it's all about the ability to connect the shoe to a larger ecosystem of services. And therefore our development process now is very, very differently. And with this, a really new innovation system emerged that provides us very different opportunities. Think about, a lot of innovation is perceived like this. You heard by Günther Schuh that you should do it agile, but the thinking is the same. We have a focus on the first stages, what we call the front end of innovation, where we try to understand what are really the problems of customers we have to solve, what are the needs. And a lot of our teaching of innovation is actually on this first stage, where we say really try to understand what are the open problems of customers before you start to innovate. Yes? Then the engineers come in the design stage to do technical problem solving and transfer these needs into first a concept, a prototype, and then a product. And then we launch the product, and then we think, once we launch the product, we are done, and then it's the task of the marketing guys, isn't it? However, with our smart products, all the innovation actually will start once the product has been launched. Think about your smartphone. Probably your most favorite app was not existing at the time when the smartphone was designed. So if we now, 10 years later, design these shoes again, it's very, very different. It's all about not really knowing what you want to do with these real smart shoes, but giving you the ability to really rethink whatever the shoe can do once you acquired it. As now, of course, it will be connected via Bluetooth, via your cell phone with a service cloud and providing these services. So if innovation, and this is really what's happening is now, is moving in the usage stage, out of the R&D labs, a lot of our research and development understanding is changing. But before I come to this, let's meet the dark side, really building on the previous presentation. It's very often when we think about smart products, especially as Germans, we think about this. Oh, the Barbie, of course, now is in the Internet of Things and it's being hacked. There is a search engine for baby cameras which are badly protected so that you can observe foreign babies, your strange babies, overnight and even talk to them. And of course, everyone is now being feared that your fridge is being hacked and perhaps your yogurt stolen virtually, and that, of course, our new cars, which all will be connected, will be crashed. And of course, there are a lot of fears on the internet of this. There are a lot of problems. But what I would argue is that there are also a lot of opportunities. And it's a little bit that we overemphasize all these bad things, what are happening with smart products, towards all what we can do. And this is what I know as a management professor, we only can manage or do and execute something how we think about it. So the next example is totally unrelated to what I'm talking about, but it's still so cool, so I still have to say it. So what this is, you know what this is? What do you see? Any guesses? What do you see? A spray? No. Lipstick? No. What? Chris? No. It's a holy grail. It is 0-calorie chocolate. You can buy it. I got it in a store in Boston. It's 0 calories. Indeed, it's a spray. And you spray some chocolate powder in your mouth, and you have all the oral sensation of chocolate without any calories. You can also get this as energy drinks and espresso shots. And why I'm telling this story? So as I said, I bought this thing in a store in Boston. And if you are here from Aachen, you know we have Lindt, the big chocolate company. They pretend to be Swiss, but they're really from Aachen. And I gave this thing to the head of R&D, the global head of R&D of Lindt, and said, "Hi, Gabi, you know this? This is also your holy grail, zero-calorie chocolate." And the global head of R&D of Lindt has never heard about this. Her thinking about chocolate is in 100-gram bars and big processing technologies, but not in a spray adopted from the pharmaceutical industry. So however we think about something is how we manage it. And I think this is exactly what is happening a lot with our understanding of innovation nowadays once we come to this connected world. We see it's getting so complex, we see it's getting so dangerous, and we always try to protect us from it instead of really to embrace what we have. But let me share you another story that was really very insightful for me. As often innovations nowadays started with a hashtag, that one was "We are not waiting." And it came from Dana Lewis, a diabetes patient, a 23-year-old from the US born with diabetes. And she is able to manage her life quite well thanks to this device, a Dexcom blood sugar measurement device that alarms you when you have to inject insulin. And Dana, as a lot of other diabetes patients, really can live a good life with this. However, she really had one problem. This thing, also she has to hear it at night, has an alarm like a beep, 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 and it was not loud enough, so it was not waking her up at night when she had to inject insulin. And she was calling Dexcom, the world market leader, and saying, "Hey, your device is not loud enough. Perhaps I'm dying as I don't hear the alarm. What can I do?" And then Dexcom said, no, sorry, it's loud enough. It's compliant to FDA regulations, ABC, blah, blah, blah. Not our problem. So what you do as a 23-year-old student? Yes, of course, you hack your device. And this is exactly what she did. As she said, when I was a child, they told me, my parents, there will be a cure for diabetes, and I'm still waiting. But I'm not waiting for better of these APS devices. So I take it on my own. As her thinking was, I have this thing called the iPhone, and this iPhone has an alarm that is loud enough. So I somehow just have to connect my APS system with my iPhone, and then the iPhone will wake me up, and I can inject insulin at night when I need it. And so the probably would have been simpler solutions just using the sensor of the iPhone, but she got a Raspberry Pi in between to somehow try to hack this device and connect it to the Raspberry Pi to make a bridge to the iPhone to the alarm. But then she discovered, actually, I don't have to do it alone. There's a huge community of diabetes patients that also had problems with this APC device, and they also started hacking this device. There are several Facebook groups or communities, but one is called the Night Scouts, really taking care of you at night. And she discovered that there were other people really talking about how to break up the system, how to connect it to other things. And then they discovered once you open the device and you are able to connect it to the internet, you're not just able to have louder alarms, but you also can have a lot of other functions by helping you to have a better life as a patient. Actually, Night Scout was founded by a father with a small child that also had diabetes. And he wanted that his child also can have a sleep over, with other friends. But he never dared to give the child to friends as he couldn't monitor it. So again, he said, I have to be able to remotely monitor the glucose level of my child. And so then they discovered and they built it, and they really built a very beautiful device as amateurs in this community of an internet-connected diabetes device. And then they went to Dexcom, the manufacturer, and told them, see, this is what we built and really improved our quality of life. Please bring it to market. And Dexcom said, wow, that's wonderful. We will totally do it. It's great. But it will take us 5 years. There's this FDA regulatory approval process for medical devices. And then that community said, can't be, we are using this already, we are not dying, why should it take 5 years? And Dexon said, oh, sorry, it will take us 5 years. And now the really remarkable part of the story starts. Up to here, it would have been one of the many stories of open innovation, as with my Barbie example, innovation starting from the outside. But as now these products, like my shoes here, are somehow connected and smart and have a lot of software and are easier to hack, we have an entirely new innovation space. As what did this community did? They organized the FDA process. And this community of amateurs went through the same regulatory process as the big guys, but they could do it in less than 5 months. And why are amateur consumers able to do the same process much faster than big industry? Any guess? They said they have the data. They had some people in their community that were really good in organizing the data. And they did like 1,000 clinical trials while using and developing it. And they made their case and brought it to the FDA. So we are now in a situation where unorganized, a little bit organized consumers are beating big guys in a medical device. And I think these are totally fascinating times nowadays. And therefore, at the end of this day, I want to give you perhaps a little bit a new perspective of innovation. First, really don't see smart devices only as a threat into your privacy. It's definitely there. But I believe we have a lot of opportunities here. And they also teach us a new way how we should see innovation. As very often, innovation policies are really fostered on creation, on creating something new. I would say it's wrong. We don't have to create, encourage companies or startups to create new things. Great new things are out there, all there. But we have to foster our policies in inspiring companies to absorbing, to bridging from what's out there, perhaps in the consumer wetlands somehow developed, and bring it to companies. And this is still most innovation policies by the state is focusing on the creation part, not so much on the absorption or open innovation part. We also really have to acknowledge that households, average citizens, are one of the core sources of innovation. And the more products get smart, connected, the easier it is for households to do this. We don't do it in Germany, but some of the statistics census offices in other countries are now measuring household innovation. And we come to percentages of up to 15% of the economic innovation activity of a country is done by consumers. In some countries like the UK, even more. But think about, even if you're a dumb startup, in Germany, you get some funding. Everyone gives you funding. We love startups. But if you are an average consumer, no one gives you funding for your idea. No one supports you. So perhaps you also need a new kind of innovation support system to support average household innovators. As these household innovators have very different incentives to innovate. Dana Lewis and also Ruth Handler at the beginning, they were not innovating to really profit from selling the innovation, but they were innovating from profiting from using the innovation. And therefore, they also freely reveal the innovation. That's very bad news for my wife, who is a patent lawyer and sitting there. But for other people that are not patent lawyers, actually it's very good news that we share freely the innovation and don't try to protect it, and as we only have to protect innovation if we want to profit from selling the innovation. But therefore also we can come into a system where we have larger distribution of knowledge. And this is something what Eric von Hippel at MIT called free innovation. As open innovation as one of the big buzzwords in innovation management in the last years was very much about acquisitions of technology from firms to firms. But free innovation as a term should really emphasize that we are entering a world where, thanks to connected smart product, it's really easier for people to innovate for free in their free time with very low resources, and also freely revealing the fruits of their innovation. And these smart products are great tools for innovation. So we really, companies, willing or unwillingly, are creating these tools for innovation. These are the same tools hackers use to hack your child camera and fridge and so on. But the same tools also really enable us to do a lot of good things. And so finally, I'm not saying it's all about innovation by consumers. We probably have strong complementarities, as in the end, someone has to build my wonderful shoes, and I'm probably not able to do it at home. So we will have some more complementarities, links between what we nowadays call firms and companies and innovating users and lead users and consumers that just use it and perhaps provide ideas but are not able to do it. So with this, I hope I could inspire a little bit to think more openly about innovation, really embrace openness for innovation, as a choice is really ours. And I see a little bit this danger that because of hackers and so on, we try to close this down. But I would say, no, these are responsible, these are very important threats. But you as students have to take care about it, that we really use these huge opportunities for innovation we have because of the internet and connected products to really the welfare of us all. Thank you very much.